able to add something at the end.
Bruce, what do you have up your sleeve here?
Well, I said I'd talk about Servite football. Dennis, I know, loved Servite football when I was there. I remember him telling me when I was in class, some of you stud football players, you think you're really hot, but I didn't get my growth spurt until after high school. Otherwise, I would have kicked all your asses. He probably doesn't remember that. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of respect. Let's put it that way for football players. He thought we were all a bunch of dumb shits. I don't know. Is that true? At least I got
Who
that
is
impression.
wrong?
Absolutely not. No, do you guys remember that it was one of your reunions? George Dana made it there.
Yeah.
And he kind of apologized. He thought the team didn't do well. I couldn't believe it. I just had to remind him of was it the St. Paul game that was played in the rain?
That was Bishop Amat, where we
Bishop
beat
Amat,
Bishop
the
Amat.
1776 with
McKay.
JK. That's right. One of the best football games I've ever seen.
That was an amazing football game and a total downpour.
That's right. And won 7-6.
That's the only reason
right?
we beat them is because they couldn't pass very well.
Well, they must not have made an extra point or whatever, because I think that was the score. But anyway,
it was an amazing game, and one of the best plays in that game. There was a guy on our team by the name of Greg Lottis.
Well, yeah.
Greg was a defensive back, and he tackled J.K. McKay. J.K. McKay fell face first in this big mud puddle. And Lottis pushed his face down in it and held it there for as long as he could.
And Pat Hayden was the quarterback, right?
He was an amazing athlete. He was also a point guard for their basketball team. So he was at least, I guess he was a four-letter athlete if you include track in there.
That's
because he played baseball, football, and basketball and track. Dennis, I'd like to think that that Pat Hayden and J.K. McKay never beat a Servite football team, but unfortunately, it's not true.
No, we only got that one lick.
In our senior year, they pretty well killed us. We were supposed to have a really good team that year, and by the time we got to the Bishop Amat game, our team had been decimated by injuries, especially our line. So we played 2 games at Anaheim Stadium, what was once Anaheim Stadium. And one of them was against Bishop Amat. And they pretty much crushed us. It was like 41-7 or something like that. Yeah, they were really good. They won the CIF championship that year and had a really great team. But that's not my story.
My overriding memory of Servite football was there was a lot of spirit. There was a lot of energy. And we'd play these games and get behind. And then there would be like this push. And they'd catch up at the very last minute. And then they would decide to go for 2 because the win was more important. And they always didn't make it. We'd all stand around the schoolyard the next day going, well, it's more important that we tried.
There's a life lesson in that, Don Taco.
And I don't know how often that actually happened to make it such an overriding impression in my memory. But I know that was not like just a once or twice thing. We managed to amazingly catch up to the ability to tie, but lose anyway, again and again.
Yeah, that happened in my senior year against Mater Dei. We were driving down the field for a tying touchdown, and we got to like the 4-yard line, and there was like 2 minutes left in that game, They were ahead by 7 points. And unfortunately, we called a play that was not successful, and then Mater Dei ran out the clock. But what was most interesting about that play is that I was at a Servite practice last year before they went into the playoff game against, I think it was San Clemente, or maybe it was Mission Viejo. And there was a guy who was a year behind us, Dave Ramazinski. I don't know if you remember Dave Ramazinski, but Dave was, he's the guy who had the souped up, like 1957 Chevy that he had jacked up, and he would like peel out in the parking lot. He was a very high energy guy. Anyway, he was playing running back in that play. And when the play developed, he was the primary receiver. And as I was looking for him to throw a pass to, he was nowhere in sight. I couldn't see him. So I ended up throwing the ball like across the field, and I got knocked down and we didn't score. But when I saw Ramazinski, he remembers this to this day. How long ago was that? Like 50 years ago or longer? He remembers it when he was running out of the backfield to run a pattern. He tripped and fell.
Oh, no.
And he still remembers that play to this day. He goes, God, I'll never forget how I was supposed to be the primary receiver and score the tying touchdown, and I run out of the backfield and I trip and fall on my face. I'm like, really? You remember that?
High school glory. Yeah.
Well, it couldn't have been more accurate for the football season, because there was a lot of blood.
Yeah.
There was a lot of sweat, and there were a lot of tears too when we lost some of these big games like the St. Paul. When we were losing to St. Paul at halftime, oh my God, there were some guys in my on my team who just like broke down in anger and tears because we were getting our butts kicked by St. Paul. I'll never forget it, because my father was part of the Servite Booster Club, and at the meeting before the big game, he had won some raffle that had allowed him to ride the bus to the game with the football team, be in the locker room at halftime, and then ride it back. So he got to witness that whole meltdown of our team during the halftime of the St. Paul game.
He got his money's worth on that one.
What the hell is with your football team? I thought this was supposed to be fun.
I have a music trivia question.